to welcome everyone to the July meeting of the Irondequoit Zoning Board of Appeals. In compliance with Governor Cuomo's executive order pertaining to public meetings during the COVID-19 outbreak, tonight's zoning board meeting is being conducted using Zoom. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that you join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Get a better angle. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. This meeting is available for live viewing on Facebook, live listening via the phone and information provided on the town's website. The meeting will also be rebroadcast on ICAC Government Access Spectrum Channel 1303. Tonight, for each case subject to a public hearing, we will follow a similar order of operations as we normally do, except tonight we are using remote access operations, or options, I should say. Applicants will be invited to join the meeting via Zoom or by phone when their case is called. Once the public hearing is opened, public input on each case can be received either by email or phone. Similar to a regular meeting, each person providing public comment will need to give their full name and address, and they will be given up to 5 minutes to provide their comments to the board. Once your comments have been received, we will move on to the next email or call, if any are waiting. We ask anyone sending in comments during the public hearing to put the address or case number in the subject line of the email. During the public hearing for each case, staff will monitor the zoning board at irondequoit.org email address. The emails will be read into the record by staff. Please be sure to provide your name and address for the record. Or the public can call in using the information provided on the website and displayed at the bottom of the screen on Facebook. While the public is listening to the meeting on the phone, they can provide comment on the current case by virtually raising their hand by pressing *9 on their phone. If you call in to make comment on a public hearing case, you will receive a prompt on the phone that you've been unmuted. That is your cue to speak to the board. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your participation and patience as we navigate, hopefully for the last time, our remote public hearing. So at this point, I believe we're ready to call our first case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First case on the agenda is case number ZB 2020-071. Upon the matter of request by Lauren Daly and Megan Maurer for area variances to install front yard fencing exceeding maximum linear footage and with less than required front setback on premises 343 Oak Ridge Drive in an R1 residential district.
Chairman, I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, I'm going to just make the request that if anybody that's attending currently is representing the applicant or is the applicant, if they could press *9 to raise their hand. I'm not seeing either one of the applicants that I can tell, but I just want to make sure. So if they're here currently and can press *9 on their phone, that would be helpful. And then in case people are having technical difficulty, I'm wondering if the board would entertain moving on to the next case, maybe tabling this or taking a vote to table this to give them the opportunity to be able to connect.
What I was going to suggest is that we move on to other cases and we'll recall that at the end in case they were having trouble getting logged on as the first case.
Thank you.
So the next case?
Okay, right, okay, so next case on our agenda is case number ZB 2020-07-2. Upon the matter of request by Jim Myers, acting as agent for Michael Osmanowski for an area variance to construct a front porch with less than required front setback on premises 260 Vinyl Avenue in an R2 residential district.
The applicant is here, so I'm gonna unmute the applicant as we speak. Mike, you should be, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak to the board and the board should be able to hear.
Hi, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, great. We're camping in the Adirondacks, so I'm sorry if there's noise in the background.
all right. So do you want to tell us about the application?
Sure. We'd like to.
First, I'm sorry. First, I need you to raise your right hands, and I will assume that you've done that. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God, I do.
Okay. So this is an application.
Application to put a front porch or deck on the front of Michael's house. He's my brother-in-law, so I'm working with him on this. We'd like to put a deck that's 6 foot by 10 foot, I believe is what we said on the front of the house. So he can sit out there and have his morning coffee and watch the kids run through the neighborhood and enjoy the sunset and just enjoy the neighborhood. It'll be a nice deck. We're looking to do, if we can swing the cost, we'd like to do some kind of a composite with a composite railing. At least we'll put, pressure treated, nice stained pressure treated wood decking in. My brother-in-laws and I have both put in several decks in the past, and we'll be doing installation for him. And I think it'd just be, there's several other decks in the neighborhood that are similar to what we're looking to do. He has talked to the neighbors and they think that it would be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
When I looked at the picture that you submitted of the proposed deck inserted into a picture of the front of the house,
Yep.
I noticed that it was going to be to the south of the stairs going up to the front door.
Right. It'd be adjoining to the original stoop that's there today. And it will be going to the south edge of the windows of the house. So we kind of wanted to take it all the way to the edge of the windows for aesthetics. 6 feet out, which would give him enough space to put a couple Adirondack chairs there to sit, and just.
Well, the reason that I bring that up is because it appeared to me that the stairs, like many stairs made of concrete and brick in Irondequoit, are starting to get ready to deteriorate.
Okay.
And my thinking was that if you put the deck and carried it over on top of the stairs so that it was to the north of the door and you came out onto the deck and then had a couple stairs to go from the deck off to where in the direction those stairs go now, that would look a lot better than just having a deck to the side of stairs that are falling apart.
We actually looked at doing that. Unfortunately, the stoop is at an elevation that won't allow us to put any kind of supports across it to build decking over it and keep some kind of a step down from the house so water won't run into the house. We actually preferred to go over the top of that and completely cover it.
Except the reason I'm asking is because that's what I did at my place. And
okay.
There isn't support under it because the stoop supports the boards for the width of the stoop. You just put the supports to the side, a post that comes up, tie it into that and carry it across. And for that width of the stairs, they support those boards.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I looked at that and I tried to come up with a way to do that. But like I said, the height of the stoop makes it very difficult to do that. We could put some supports in the ground on the other side, on either side of it, but then there'd be like no, I don't know. I just think the decking boards will not be sitting. They will not have enough support under them. I think they're just going to flex. They're going to be too far apart to flex between everything. And I just can't put any kind of supports underneath it.
All right, that was just a suggestion, but what I would, I mean, obviously you need to look at that a little more. If it's okay, I would suggest that we approve the deck to go from the end of the house over to the end of the windows so that you have the flexibility. You don't have to use everything that you're given, but
Okay.
if you figure out a way that you can do it, I think it would make it look a lot better than just having a deck as like a afterthought to the side of the stairs.
Yeah,
it's a nice
I
looking
agree.
deck.
I agree. We like I said, we attempted to do that in the original drawings, but when I measured everything out, I just did not have enough. The elevation was too high on the stoop today to get it in there and do that.
Right.
So,
And
go ahead.
Michael, did he used to live on Minocqua Drive?
He did. He did, yeah.
All right. That's what I thought. I knew his parents. They lived at the end of the street. I live up on the other end.
You know what? I recognized your name when I saw your name on here. I actually asked Michael. He's my brother-in-law. I asked him. I go, hey, is this the Jim Hinman you knew?
I just want to put that out there. It doesn't, in my opinion, constitute any kind of a conflict. I didn't know Michael well. I knew his dad and his mom much better than, and his sister who used to babysit for my kids. But that has nothing to do with this application. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there. If you'd like to stop by and look at what I've done, I'd be glad to have you do that.
Well, thank you.
So,
you know what? I would like to do that. So are you still on Minocqua?
Oh yeah, same place. My idea for that actually came from the town when I was asked whether I was repairing or rebuilding.
Uh-huh. So I would love to do a drive-by on that and
sure,
check that out.
All right.
We're camping this week in the Adirondacks, and when we get back,
I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's going to be hot.
Yes, we'll enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. So that you said that you would approve as is. If we can extend over the top of the stoop, we will do that. Is that
well, my suggestion? Yeah, my suggestion was going to be that, assuming that we approve it, to run from the north corner of the house to the south end of the windows. And that gives you the flexibility to go across more in the nature of a porch than a deck.
Yes. Yes. We will look at that. I'll look at your house and we'll take Michael knows which house you lived in, and Darlene as well. And did Darlene babysit or Kathy or which?
Kathy, I think.
Kathy. All right. I'll grab Kathy. We'll swing by. She's coming up tomorrow.
All right.
Trip.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for the applicant?
No.
Do we have any questions or comments or public input?
So anybody who's attending the meeting currently on via Zoom, if they are doing so by phone, can hit *9 to raise their hand, and then I'll go ahead and unmute you and let you know when it's your turn to speak. Chairman, I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time. So, Jim, I'm going to go ahead and mute your access at this point since there's no other comment.
Okay, so everything's approved as is then?
No
Well, we'll-
action has been taken yet.
We do that at the end of the meeting after we hear all of the cases.
Oh, okay, so we should, okay, again, we're camping, so should we stay on for the whole ride then here, or?
That's a technical question that's way beyond my capability of answering.
So
Carrie?
I'm going to say that whether you're here or not here at the point of deliberation doesn't impact or change the deliberation process itself. At the
Mhm.
point of deliberation, there's no more further input. And so whether you're attending or not, they're going to render the decision. You can always contact the Planning and Zoning Office tomorrow morning to find out the result. You can watch it on Facebook Live to see how it goes. If you want to keep the phone on, you can. If you have unlimited minutes, it's completely up to you.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome. Good night. Enjoy the Adirondacks. All right, so close the hearing with respect to that matter and move on to the next application.
Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 2020-07-3. Upon the matter of request by Michael Ranchi, acting as agent for Raphael and Sharina Maria for an area variance to construct a front porch with less than required front setback on premises 219 Park Road in an R3 residential district.
Do we have the applicants there?
I'm going to ask that if the applicant is currently one of the attendees, if they would please press *9 to identify themselves. And I haven't received anything, so what I might do is, we do have application number, the next case number 4. I do see somebody that appears to be representing the application there.
All right, so we'll move this to the to be called later pile.
Yeah, and Michelle, what I might do is I may contact the applicants directly and see if they're having difficulty so I can report back to the board.
I'm sorry, I was okay.
All right, the other thing too is that we do have one new attendee by phone, so I'll just say if that person is representing case number 3 on the agenda. And forgive me, I lost my
It's Park Road.
Park Road. If they could press *9 to identify themselves as the applicant. And still I see no hands raised, so on to the next one.
Okay.
Okay, next case on the agenda is case number ZB 2020-07-4. Upon the matter of request by Jason and Jennifer McGough for a special use permit to harbor 6 to 10 hens with run and coop pursuant to section 235-70 of Town Code on premises 200 Totem Trail in an RR rural residential district.
All right, do we have the applicants present?
The applicants here, I'm about to press the unmute button and you'll see them pop up on the window when that happens.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, so we can hear you.
Okay, hi, I'm Jennifer and my husband Jason's here with me as well.
All right.
For this application, I actually created a PowerPoint.
Okay, hold on. Before you go further,
I have to swear.
Yes, you live at 200 Totem Trail, correct?
Yes,
All right, I need you to both raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
That's
now.
okay. So I actually had created a PowerPoint. I didn't know if there was a way for me to share that with you.
I would have no clue.
Okay,
Oh,
I've done it
I-
before.
What I can say is as a, let me see if I'm able to elevate you to a panelist and then you should be able to share your screen.
Great, thank you.
So hold on for one moment.
Okay.
So I have elevated you to panelist. I'm not sure if the share screen functionality is appearing for you, so you can let me know that.
Not yet. We're going to try a couple things here real quick.
No.
Move your hand. Usually it's right here.
I'm adjusting one other thing
Okay.
to allow.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is our,
It's not gonna show that. You gotta go back.
wait, what do I have to do? Sorry. From the beginning. Okay.
Can you guys see that?
All right. Can you see intentions defined? Is that what you see now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is basically just the letter that we had written, the letter of intent that we desire a small flock of backyard chickens to raise and collect eggs from. We don't have any intention on getting a rooster. And, you know, our goals would be to teach our children some responsibility for raising other living creatures and obviously also collect their eggs for consumption. This is a shed that's on our property currently that we were hoping to convert into the coop. But we're flexible on where this shed is located. So these are just some photos. That's the shed as is. And then the picture over here is a picture of what we think the run would look like that we would construct ourselves using pressure treated lumber and chicken wire. It would come off the back of the shed so that the chickens can free range around in that area. This is our property map, and this is a picture of where the shed currently is. Again, we're flexible on where this would be. Today we staked out our property and actually talked with some of our neighbors, and so we've heard some concern about where it is in terms of property line and animals, like dogs, basically not being happy that there are chickens there, which we understand. So we have a few different areas we could put it in. If it's not desirable to be here, we have another area right here that we could put it along where this current shed is. We have this back corner area. We also have back here, which we currently have a pool and a fence that go about from this corner of the house to this corner of the house, but we have this area right here where the coop could go. And then we also have this whole side yard area where we could put the coop. So
Right.
we're very
And
flexible on where it could be located.
With respect to where you were pointing just a moment ago, what is on the east side of that property line?
Right here, there's a fence, privacy
No.
stockade fencing.
No, the
Here?
east, yeah,
I don't
right
know,
in
I don't know
there.
where east is.
This is right here.
Right here?
East would be to the, away from the garage, past the pool,
Back here.
right there.
Okay. It's just the neighbors over here on Totem Trail. This is their yard.
A yard, okay.
Yep. It's just a wide open piece of grass area.
It's not fenced,
There's no fence.
okay.
So that's the location. But like I said, we're very flexible on where the coop goes if people are, you know, have problems with where it goes. Like these are some more pictures of the shed where it is right now. This white fencing here is the home in front of us, 210 Totem Trail. And this shed here is 224 Totem Trail. 224 is okay with us putting the coop here, but 210 told us today that they'd prefer that it not be here because they think that their dog will have a problem with the chickens being that close. So we agreed with her that we would totally move it if we needed to. So the neighbors, what I did when this whole process started was I sent a group email out to our neighbors because we're on a group email chain. And I basically told them what our intentions were. And we got some feedback from them that they were concerned about rats or rodents. Some people thought that this was going to be an issue while others did not. I want to assure the board that we have 5 small children who are going to be helping us take care of these chickens. We do not want a rat problem. We would not want that for us or for our neighbors or for our children. So when I read about that, I read that basically rats are attracted mostly to the chicken feed. But if you contain the chicken feed in a metal container with a tight sealing lid, that you drastically decrease your risk of having any kind of rodent problem. And so this, I just included a picture. This can be purchased on Amazon. So if we did end up getting a rodent infestation of some kind, we would be extremely aggressive in taking care of it. And if we, had to get rid of the chickens and that was the only option, I do have means for doing that because I have friends that keep chickens out in rural areas. Again, this is basically just what I said. The other way that you can prevent rats or rodents from trying to get into your coop is to not use straw for the base. So we would most likely use sand, which decreases your risk of that as well. And then obviously we would bury the fence into the ground around the coop and run, which was also suggested by the town. I just want to emphasize again, we have no interest in having rats or rodents on our property. Where we currently live is there's an abundance of wildlife. I don't doubt that there may already be rats or rodents there, but we've never seen any and we have no interest in meeting them. Another neighbor concern was disease, mainly of the chickens. And of course, as with other animals, chickens can succumb to diseases. I have an appointment with a veterinarian to give health certificates for the chickens once we have received them. And I have read about what to do if one chicken appears sick, how you would isolate it from the others until you can get it to a vet to be checked out. I'm also a nurse practitioner. I understand the importance of proper hand hygiene. Anytime you deal with any kind of animal or its feces, my children are very, very in tune with how we wash our hands and we sanitize. So cleaning the coop is going to be a big deal. We're going to do that frequently. And I actually have a picture as well of chickens poop mostly when they sleep and they roost when they sleep. So this is a picture of a roost that somebody had put a tarp under. It makes it much easier to clean the chicken poop. Just an example of something that we might do in the coop to help prevent these feces from just being everywhere. Another concern was that the chicken coop could decrease adjacent property values, but I have not found anything to support this at all on the internet. Going back to that potential for disease, it was brought up that salmonella can, be when the eggs aren't pasteurized. Obviously, we're going to be consuming the eggs. I have no desire to sell these eggs or anything. We're going to be not eating them in the raw preparation. I've read extensively how to properly clean the eggs prior to consumption. So that I'm not worried for our health getting sick. And obviously, if anyone wanted eggs, I would explain to them how to properly do these things as well. But I'm not going to be selling these or anything. These were just some other diseases that, again, proper hand hygiene. The CDC basically just says proper hand hygiene and regular cleaning of the coop will prevent illness in humans that are taking care of poultry. There was some misinformation that we found online as well, but I found some really reliable resources here with the CDC and U.S. Agriculture Department that there's really no concern as long as proper precautions are taken. These are just some pros of eating fresh eggs. Like other parents, we're trying to teach our kids to be healthy, and we think that raising chickens will help with that. The eggs you actually buy in the store are 6 to 8 months old, and so they are lacking in nutrition compared to ones that you can raise yourself. We also grow our own vegetables and we encourage outdoor play. Those are other things that we do to help raise a healthy family. And so we think that chickens will help us do this too. The last concern was that what if we accidentally got a rooster? Which is true because when you buy baby chickens, we're not buying baby chicks like day-old chicks. We're planning on buying pullets. So they're generally several weeks old, and telling their gender is much easier at that age. However, there's a 90% chance of getting their gender correct, and then a 10% chance of not having the gender correct. If it turns out that we had a rooster, I've already spoken to a friend of mine who raises roosters for meat, and he's agreed to take any of the males off of our hands for free. Obviously, there's websites where you can buy chicks from farms that participate in the USDA Natural Poultry Improvement Plan, and they make sure there's adequate sanitation and hygiene practices followed at those plants. Lastly, if we ever have to go away for any length of time, we've asked our neighbors at 201 Totem Trail to watch the chickens for us, and they have agreed. And then this is just our family. I just want to emphasize that the neighbors, we've had a mixed review. We've had several people who've supported us through either voicemails or they've emailed me personally. And then there's also been several people who are against this proposal. It's definitely not one-sided, though some neighbors think that it may be. I just want to assure everyone that if we get approved for this application, that we would do everything in our power to make sure that it's hygienic and safe.
Okay, at this point, I think it's appropriate for me to do two things, maybe three. First, I want to read into the record the input that we have received. We received a voicemail message from a Jessica Brault of 249 Totem Trail who support the application. Ashley Varioli of 201 Totem Trail, who I guess is going to take care of them if you're gone. She approves of the application. Nancy Carey of 231 Totem Trail stated that she supports the proposal. And Annie Davis of 181 Seneca Park Avenue also left a voicemail message saying that she was in favor of the proposal, as did Teresa Watson of 224 Totem Trail. Then we received an email from Patrick and Crystal Hoover of 238 Totem Trail in opposition to the application. We received a letter from, I believe it might be Roseanne Lopa at 210 Totem Trail, who was opposed to the application, but mostly because of the proposed location, as you referenced, and the concern that it would aggravate her dog. The owners of 255 Totem Trail also sent in a message in opposition to the application, as did Dan and Eileen Michelli at 254 Totem Trail. So that was the input that we received from the neighbors. As you indicated, it was a mixed review. The second thing that I wanted to point out at this point for anyone who may be watching or who has taken note of the agenda item, this is an application for a special use permit as opposed to a variance. A special use permit means that the town board has already determined that having chickens on your property in the town of Arundecoit is acceptable. So the question is not, that's in front of us, is not whether or not chickens are a good idea or a bad idea, or whether we agree, or whatever our personal feelings may be about having chickens in your yard, doesn't come into play in our decision. What we are charged with is establishing conditions under which the chickens will be harmonious with the neighborhood. And in the past, if you've done any research on our past decisions concerning chickens, and we're developing quite a library of case decisions on chickens, we've established a number of conditions that we generally follow. The first one that comes to mind in reviewing your application is that, to the best of my knowledge, we have not issued a special use permit to anyone so far in the last, I've been on the board, this is my 15th year, that allows for more than 4 chickens. We have had some instances where people have come to us for forgiveness instead of permission and have had more than 4. And what we've indicated to them is that as the chickens' numbers decrease naturally, once it gets to 4, that's the limit, and they cannot replace any of them after that. So your application is asking for 6 to 10, which we have not granted at all, as I'm aware, at any time in the last 15 years. So I'll get back to that. The other conditions that we have are that we have an annual certification of health from a veterinarian for each chicken. We have also required that the fencing around any runs or coop be buried 2 feet into the ground to prevent underground invasion of the animals. We have also required that the food be stored in an indoor location and not outdoors. We have also required that the town be allowed to check on the coop on at least an annual basis and report back to the board. And I believe, also that it has to be, I think we've set 8 feet from the property line. So I believe, and somebody can correct me if I've left anything off, but I think those are the ones that we have traditionally imposed.
So,
From your presentation, it seems to me you don't have a problem with any of them other than the number.
Correct.
My only concern with that is if you buy from certain hatcheries, you have to buy in quantities of 6 minimum.
Well, we haven't heard that before. And I think you said from certain places. So I believe what you're telling me is that there are places that will sell you 4 instead of 6, right?
I'm just gonna have to look into it.
All right.
We would like 6. I appreciate your feedback. I don't know if anyone else that you have approved in the past has had as much land as we have. We're on almost 1.5 acres. So also we have a large family, so we were hoping to have a lot of eggs, but of course we'll do whatever the board thinks is the best.
Did I leave off any of the conditions, anyone? Apparently not.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
is special permit limited to 5 years?
yes. At least we've limited it to 5 years.
I believe that was left off.
Yes.
Does that just
yes,
mean we have to apply every 5 years?
Yes. So far,
Okay.
I will tell you that we have not had anyone reapply to have it renewed.
Really?
They have-
Interesting.
Yes, after 5 years, they have apparently all decided that the chickens were not for them.
Okay.
Just a heads up there. So that was the rules on the special permits. All right. And then I guess my big question to you is why we should approve. I'd like to hear your reasoning as to why we should approve more than the 4 that we've approved for every other location in the town that we've approved.
Well, like I said, I believe that it's more rare to have as much land as we have in Irondequoit. We're zoned as a rural residential area. And if you go just, a few houses down from where we currently live, I believe that that's all considered rural on St. Joseph Avenue. Also, we have a large family. We have 5 children, and my mother-in-law also lives with us. So we just wanted to have, enough eggs that we don't have to buy any from the store. I think that's it, right? Those are basically the reasons.
All right. In terms of the size of the property, in looking at the survey map that you attached to the application, it's a very big lot, grant you that, but the area that the unimproved area that would be available for a coop is approximately 1/3 of that land area. The house takes up quite a bit. You indicated that the back of the house has a large pool, and there's a considerable amount of land to the north and the west of the house that isn't available. So if you go down to the area that's available, yes, it's larger than many that we've approved, but it isn't as if the entire parcel is available for a greater number of chickens.
Yeah, that's correct. I guess I have a question is what is the big concern about 4 to 6? What is 2 more chickens going to cause? And how would 2 more chickens cause an issue or cause more concern for anything that you brought up
Because,
as of yet?
well, from an institutional standpoint, a lot of people come in and will point out to us that we've approved something for somebody and we didn't approve it for somebody else. And, you know, what are the reasons? Are you playing favorites? Are you, you know, so we have criteria and we don't know. I mean, I don't believe that any of us on the board have any experience with chickens. I don't think any of us have chickens on our property. I'm not sure that any of us have cared for them. So we're really in a area where we don't have any expertise, and we have over the years felt our way through, and that's what we've come up with. And I am well aware that if the only reason you can come up with for doing something some way is because you've always done it that way, that's not a good reason. However, the fact that we are charged with overseeing these special use permits throughout the town, I have a concern approving more than the 4 that we have approved over the years.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yes.
Question is, to the applicant, what are you going to do about water and stuff in the winter? If we ended up, it's far away from the house, you're going to be running electric, you're going to give them water every couple hours, you're going to have a light in there for a little bit of heat. And a lot of people that I know are starting to do that quite a bit because the water freezes in the winter.
Yes, you're right about that. So there are these like heating, it's almost like a heating pad that you can purchase to prevent the water from freezing. And there's also heating pads you can put in the nesting boxes to help keep the chickens warm. There are solar things that you can put on the outside of the coop that have light come on and stuff when it's night, or heating things. But we don't plan on actually having electric in the shed or in the coop.
Okay. Thank you.
With
You're welcome.
respect to the location of the coop, you said you were willing to move it anywhere in that area to the south portion of your property, correct?
Yes.
South is behind your house towards the totem trail part after it curves.
Yeah.
In looking at the driving through and observing the neighborhood and looking at the what's shown on the map and taking into consideration the comments of some of your other neighbors, you mentioned putting it just to the other side of the swimming pool area, and that to the east of that location, your neighbors, it's just an open field area, right?
Correct.
All right. So from taking into account all that you said and the comments from your neighbors, it seems to me that would be a better location than where it is now. And you're agreeable to putting it there?
Yes, we are.
And the other conditions that we went over that we normally have imposed in these cases, you're agreeable
Yes.
to all of those?
Yeah, we already planned on burying the wire below the run. And I already have an appointment on July 21st for the chickens to be seen by a vet. If we get approved. And then what was the other? The only thing with the location you're discussing now is that it wouldn't necessarily be 8 feet from a property line.
Well, it looks to me as though you've got I'm looking at your survey map. It would appear to me from the survey map that you would be able to locate it next to the pool and 8 feet from the property line without any difficulty. Is there something else in there other than the?
No,
Well,
no, you're fine. She's incorrect. You're fine. We can do 8 feet. Not sure why she
All
said that.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering that. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or comments concerning this application? Seeing and hearing none, we will open it up for public input.
Okay, I'm gonna just remind anybody that's attending the meeting currently on Zoom, they press *9 to raise their hand. If they're logged in via a computer, there is a way you can raise your hand as one of the menu items as well. And we do have 2 hands raised. So I'm going to sort of go in the order that they're appearing on my screen. Just to let the applicants know, I'm going to mute you for now, just so there's not background noise, or if you want to mute yourself, just to limit the potential for feedback. So I have, looks like Roseanne.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that I did talk to both Jennifer and Jason, and they were very amenable about moving the chicken coop area because of my concern about my dog. So I just wanted to go on record that I'm not opposed to the chickens anywhere else than there. So that's all I wanted to make sure that you knew, that I was in favor of them as long as they weren't in that spot.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Roseanne,
Yes,
what address are you at, please?
210 Totem Trail.
Okay, dear, thank you.
I'm directly in front of their property.
Okay, before I'm gonna mute this attendee and move on to the next, but I just want to double check that we're all set.
Yep.
Thank you.
Frank, you've been added to the meeting. You should be able to speak freely as long as you're unmuted on your side.
I'm unmuted. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear
Hello,
me?
sir. We can hear.
There we go. Perfect. Did you get my letter that I sent to everyone? I see you're shaking your head, Michelle.
It was emailed, board members.
I didn't hear my name when you were all given a list of who was opposed and who wasn't opposed.
I don't
I sent
recall
a pretty
seeing a
lengthy
letter
letter.
from you.
It was an attachment to the email. A PDF attachment.
I sent it on the 29th and I got a confirmation back that you received it, Michelle.
I did. I'm just double checking here.
I was hoping you had an opportunity to review it. It's quite lengthy, quite thorough. Some of it may not be pertinent to this, given your preface about the special use permit already being approved by the town board. But there certainly are many factors to weigh. I know you've done this in the past. I've watched the permits that you've issued, this board has issued. You've done a good job not owning chickens or farms. As you said, Mr. Hinman, that none of you had experience with that. Luckily, I do have experience with all of that. I've owned several farms over the years, very large farms, one in Bristol, one in Mendon. It's always nice for people that they want to start to have farm animals, whether they're poultry or other types of farm animals. And I agree that after 5 years, people usually don't even last a year running these little chicken coops. It's pretty difficult in the winter to take care of them, and it's kind of a drudgery to do it. That's why a lot of the small farmers are gone today. So I hope you have a chance to review my letter, but I can tell you that I'm not in support of it. If you are going to approve it, I certainly hope you do give many, many conditions like the ones you've given. I just wanted to point out one other thing that she talked about, that, you know, commercial eggs are 6 months old in a grocery store. By law, they're only not more than 60 days old when they're hatched. When they're laid, the farmer has 30 days to box those eggs, get them to a grocery store. Then the grocery store has another 30 days by law to sell those. So that's kind of a big misnomer. They're attached to my email. There were also 5 other emails with neighbors that were opposed to this application. So even though you had 5 in support and 4 that you showed were opposed, you really have 11 of the neighbors. I even attached a map with an aerial photo showing the location of all the people that were opposed to it, which are close to, with the exception of Miss Lopa, whose property is in front of the McGough property. You still having problems finding it?
I found your email.
I have yours here too.
Yeah, so I don't,
No,
bear with me. Bear with me.
I don't want to drone on and on, but you have a good handle on how you administer not only this case, but all the chicken cases in Arundequite. I certainly am pleased with your past performance, and I'm sure you'll do the right thing in this case. There's a lot of dogs in this neighborhood, and maybe you should, you know, if you take a look at my letter, I don't want to tell the board what to do, but it's about 11 pages, so you may want to take some time to look at it. I think it's kind of interesting that the applicant has already got chickens and got appointments with vets and is assuming that you're going to approve this tonight. But if you need a little more time, you know, take some time to think about it. You know, what's another few weeks till the next meeting? Are you speed reading there, Jim?
I am. I'm looking at, I finally found it on my phone.
Okay.
There appear to be some things that you highlighted.
Well, those would be the people that were opposed to this at the end of the letter.
Right.
If you look at Exhibit A, she did do a very nice job of circulating around what she was looking for initially and looking for neighbors' support, but not everyone was in support of it. And as you know, not everybody wants to come and talk to a board and even pick up the phone and call or be involved. So I thought this was important to not only give my position, but positions that other people have already put on paper via email.
Yes, and the input from neighbors is something that our board has always valued and taken into account. But as our attorneys in the past, and I'm sure our current attorneys keep reminding us that it's not just a question of whether the neighbors are in favor or opposed to it.
Jim, you're speaking to the choir. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand that, but I think it's also important to understand some of the people and how close they are to this applicant's property. If you are going to approve it, you know, to be very, I don't want to use the wrong word, but make sure the conditions are in place so that we can keep track of this, because people lose interest in these things. It's to run a farm. That's why nobody's a farmer anymore. And, you know, the land down in the flats that's zoned RR, I don't know, I don't really want to go on and on, but you may recall from when I was down a few years ago talking about this, we actually brought down Bob from Thailand when this property was actually all zoned RR, it was zoned so we would have a minimum lot size down here. It wasn't zoned for farming. It was really done because there was a lack of sewers at the time. But then Totem Trail came in and they put a PUD development in and they brought sewers in. So the rural residential designation is not really applicable to a farm. And there is a section, I believe, in the code that talks about farmland, and farmland is, I think, defined in the code as something more than 3 acres. But I've got enough attorneys on this board to certainly know more about that than I do.
Well, I want to tell you that the overhead photo that you attached is very helpful and reinforces in my mind that the location by the it would be the southeast corner of the pool is the optimal spot for being as far removed from all of the neighbors as possible, and still comporting with the fact that the town board through the ordinance has determined that it's acceptable. One of our concerns has always been in the past proximity to neighbors and location to minimize any negative impact. So that
I agree with your concept. I'm not going to tell you that I agree that it should be in the southwest, the northeast, or where it should be, because I believe any location is going to impact the neighbor. But I certainly agree with you on your assessment of the special use permit process and how it works. But I'll leave that to you good folks to determine where it should be.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you all. Stay safe. I'll be tuning in. I wish you had gotten my letter earlier. It would have given you something to sleep by at night if you have any problem sleeping.
That's what I use a mortgage for.
All right. Take care, folks. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, is there anyone else that wishes to?
I'm gonna make the call out again, *9, or to raise your hand in the Zoom app for those who are tuned in this way. And I'm seeing no other raised hands.
All right, does the applicant or do the applicants wish to add anything based on the information that was raised during the public input portion of the hearing?
Yeah, I would actually.
Okay.
That aerial map, if you look at that aerial map that Frank Romeo provided,
Yes.
you can see the neighbors that are against us. Very few of them share a backyard with us. However, 210, 224 Totem Trail, and then 181 Seneca Park Ave all share a backyard property line with us, and all 3 of them are in favor of our application. And Frank Romeo does not share a property line with us.
181 Seneca Park Avenue is the first house on the south side of Seneca Park Avenue, just past the Romeo house, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, and their boundary line comes up, according to the map there, their property ends at the northernmost and easternmost part of your house.
Correct.
And the other property line is, I'm not sure what number, it's between
224 and 210.
No, between 254 and 276.
They're far down in the circle area, in the cul-de-sac.
Yes, but they own, their property includes, it goes back at an angle, and their property is the one that immediately adjoins your swimming pool area.
Which one, 272?
Yes, that would be between 254 and 276. It's the second one in between.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So we have 2 against and
So,
3 for.
but again, as I pointed out earlier, if it was a question of what neighbors are in favor of it and what are opposed, we wouldn't need a zoning board. We would just send out a referendum and have the neighbors vote up or down. Our job is to consider the views of those who are in favor, of those who are opposed, and to consider the parameters of the town imposing conditions so that the town board's determination that chickens are okay, even for those who don't approve of them, that we minimize to the extent possible any negative impact that could come to adjoining properties. So that is why I had suggested to you that it be 8 feet off the property line and probably 8 feet south of your pool area, because that is the most remote portion of your lot. Takes care of the concern that your neighbor at 210 raised about the dog and the fence and being on the other side of that. And it's set far back from the other neighbors
He's talking about where the swing set is.
who go around the property. So, I mean, that's, I would, if it was going to be approved, that one of the conditions that I would want to impose is that that's where it be located.
Understand.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And that the chicken run would be off of the shed would be parallel to the pool and not running towards the curved area, the cul-de-sac area of Totem Trail.
Okay.
So they would be running along the side of the pool, but 8 feet or so away. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments or anything you'd like to bring to our attention based on what was raised in the public input portion?
No.
Any other
thank you.
comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention that I think, and I'm looking at a map of the properties there. I think that on the map that was attached to Mr. Romeo's email, that 276 is mismarked. I believe that property is one over, and actually 276 is adjacent along that swimming pool property line, based on another map I'm looking at, but I could be mistaken.
All right. Well, did we hear from either of those?
Not personally, but I believe they did communicate with us that they were opposed.
Okay. All right. I just knocked everything over on my here. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing and hearing none, we will we'll close the hearing with respect to this case, and we will move on to the next application that we have in front of us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 2020-07-5. Upon the matter of request by Ken Schwanker for an area variances to construct a new detached garage exceeding maximum permitted square footage and height on premises 285 Shore Drive in an R3 residential district.
The applicant is present for the meeting.
Okay. Is that Mr. Schwanker?
Yes, it is.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did?
Okay, thank you. You reside at 285 Shore Drive?
I do.
All right, if you'd raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You do? Okay, all right. I hadn't heard it at first. All right, so you want to address your application?
Basically, we are one of 2 houses on Big Massog Cove
at the very end of Titus Avenue Extension. It's actually Shore Drive, 285 Shore Drive. We are proposing to build a 28 by 28 garage at the top of our driveway. The top of our driveway is about 10 or 14 feet below the height of the ground level of the house. So we have stairs going up from the driveway up to the house. So the garage would be built into the hill and would have an exit at ground level for the house. So you would drive up the driveway and into the garage, and there'd also be stairs primarily outside that you could walk up to the house. We propose to use, so the first level would be the garage, and then above that would be a shop area, a work area. Partially up along the back wall of that shop area, 6 feet off the ground, is a bit of a balcony, and we're proposing that so we could potentially put an elevator in there to try to extend the usefulness of our house as we get older. But that's a future feature. We just want to enable it. So that's about it. So because it's built into the hill, that's the height issue. It puts the peak of the garage up some 30 feet, the very top of it. The actual bottom edge of the roof line is actually at ground level for our house. So the roof of the garage is going to be lower than the roof of our house. The garage is detached. It's about 30 or 35 feet from the house. And then there was the area issue. In the guidelines, there's I think it's 600 square feet.
900.
900. So we're proposing 28 by 28, which is under the 900, but we do have an existing what is called a garage, although it's not. Right now, it's essentially just supporting a deck that we use to look out over the bay. That old garage is not big enough for a single car. So we use it for storage. So we have boat trailers in there and stuff. So I think that summarizes it.
Does anybody have any questions or comments from the board? Not seeing or hearing any. Is there anyone who wishes to, we'll open it up to public input. Do we have anyone who wishes to address? Oh, I would mention that we did get a letter from Tom LaDuca, who lives at 231 Shore Drive, and he is in favor of the garage. I should say of your proposal, not just the garage.
I don't see any attendees with their hands raised.
All right. Is there any last opportunity for any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to that matter and move on to the next application.
Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 2020-07-6. Upon the matter of request by Adam Frank for an area variance to install front yard fencing exceeding maximum linear footage on premises 731 Kings Highway North in an R1 residential district.
The applicant is here, so I will go ahead and unmute the applicant so they can participate. Adam, you should be connected now to the meeting.
Yes. So everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for your time and consideration in this. So we are asking to put a split rail fence.
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Right.
Your name is Adam Frank. You live at 731 Kings Highway North.
I do.
All right. If you'd raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Now you may proceed. Sorry.
Okay. So we are asking for to be able to put a split rail fence in front of our property, running along the Kings Highway North. The principal reason to do this is really safety, to sort of demarcate what is the property and what isn't. You know, as you know, 730 or Kings Highway North, this part is feels very rural. So, you know, we can't really see our neighbors on either side. But there is a fair amount of traffic, and sometimes there can be a fair amount of foot traffic, especially on the weekends. And I would like to sort of have, I mean, it's both, it's, you know, it's aesthetic. It's a split rail fence is a very nice thing. It looks nice. Doesn't present a, you know, a visual barrier, but it does demarcate. This is, you know, the land, this is private land and that's not private land. So we'd like to sort of establish that by using the split rail fence. That's essentially it. I think, you know, as I said, it'll be very aesthetic because it fits, it's, you know, split rail fence is kind of has a country feel to it. This is very much has a country feel here. We just moved into the house last year, last summer. So, you know, we're starting to do things to, you know, to it now to sort of personalize it. And putting in that fence was one of the first things I wanted to do because it feels very exposed. The house feels, you know, quite exposed to the road. So that's my case.
Any questions or comments from the board?
It's going to be just the two rail, split rail. There's
Yeah.
some in the photograph.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no other questions or comments from the board, we'll open it up to public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak with respect to this application?
I do not see any, well, I do see that Ken Schwenker's, the hand is raised currently, but that might be a holdover from when he was identifying himself as an applicant. So I will say that I don't see any other hands raised at this time if you want to wait one more minute. Michelle, you haven't received any incoming emails on this one?
Sorry. No, I do not see anything in the zoning board email.
Mr. Schwenker, did you want to say something with respect to this application?
Hold on one moment. I've got to unmute him. Hold on.
All right.
I'm good. Thank you very much for the chance.
All right. And seeing that we don't have any hands raised or emails, we'll close the hearing with respect to this application and move on to the next application on our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is case number ZB 2020-07-7. Upon the matter of request by Tim and Catherine Mannion for an area variance to construct a rear deck with less than required rear setback on premises 66 Madison Terrace in an R2 residential district.
Okay, and it looks like I've got at least, yep, I've got one applicant. I've got the applicant here and ready to participate. I'm going to unmute them now.
All right.
Catherine, you should be unmuted and able to participate in the meeting.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Catherine Mannion, and I'm here with my husband, Tim Mannion.
And you presently live at 137 Curtis Road,
That's correct.
but you are, I guess, under contract to purchase 66 Madison Terrace. Is that correct?
That is.
If you would both raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We do.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so first, thanks for having us. And I guess we sort of want to start with an apology. Neither one of us have ever put in an application for a zoning variance before, and weren't quite prepared for the response that we got. And so we'd like to apologize, I guess, to our new neighbors that we didn't talk to them first. We were so excited. We've been looking for a house in that neighborhood for many, many years, and we were very excited to finally find one, and wanted to get the ball rolling on the on some changes that we wanted to make, and we thought this was something we wanted to do right away. I first want to address in my application, or our application, I wrote that view was a reason. And I want to say that I actually chose that as a reason because it was an example given on the zoning board page of the 5 factors to be considered, number 2, and a view was a choice. So I guess I kind of grabbed onto that because we were excited about that. Another factor that we maybe should have focused on a little bit more is that that level of the house, it's sort of, I'm sure if you've seen it, it's a, the shotgun style home in the front with the split level in the back added on. And that second, the higher level is the main living area, the kitchen, and a bedroom that we would use as a master bedroom. And so there is no exit or entrance to the house at that level. So putting something there on the back of the house would give us an exit from that level. Otherwise, there's one in the front, but goes out to the porch. There's one on the side that goes out, and then there's one from the lower level, but nothing in the main living area. So I guess that would be what we should have put as our main reason for, safety or exit from the home in case of an emergency. But I'm not going to lie, the view from a door there and a deck will be fantastic until somebody builds houses on those 2 empty lots. And that's what drew us to the house and drew us to the neighborhood. So view's definitely a reason. But I noticed from the letters, people didn't think that was a fair enough reason. So we did send in a rebuttal letter today, and I guess not rebuttal, just sort of a reply letter. I don't know if should I go through this, or is this something that I should read aloud? Or I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at it. I'm assuming there are neighbors on the call that will want to speak that maybe haven't heard this.
You can present your case any way you'd like.
Okay.
Speaking for myself, I did receive your letter, and I have had a chance to review it. I assume that the rest of the board has as well, but your neighbors obviously would not have that.
All right. Well, then let me just I won't read it verbatim because that's boring to everyone. So, so we did actually go, we went down there this morning because we read what our neighbors said and hear them and want to be we don't want to be jerks. We want to be welcomed into the neighborhood. I can totally understand, especially it seems for the resident of 411 Lakefront, Carolyn Andrews. She's right there and in front of where we would put the proposed deck. I can understand her concern for security and for privacy. Also, while we were there, we thought okay, we can see that the deck maybe seems excessive, although we didn't believe it was when we were measuring it originally. So we are totally willing to go to a smaller thought pattern on it and maybe just have it be an exit from the house from that level, and stairs down, and then have a patio. If that would be more amenable to neighbors, that we're okay with that. Certainly we'd like to have it be a little bit wide enough so we could put 2 chairs and have a cup of coffee out there. But if we want to compromise, we don't want to, make anybody mad. Some people thought that perhaps the height of the deck was excessive, which we think about 5 feet off the ground, which I don't see to be excessive or too tall. I do notice that there aren't any other decks in that neighborhood, except for on the lakefront. So let me see what else we had on here. Let's see, the deck that we went down today and measured, and we thought, perhaps we could change it to something like 5 feet by 8 feet.
5 by 8.
So that's, rather than 100 square foot deck, where now you're looking at 50 square feet.
40 or 40.
Then what else was I going to say? Oh, there's someone raised a concern about the trees at the property line. We don't feel like it is, it's certainly close. The properties are all close, but I don't see where it would adversely affect those trees. And we actually, while we were there today, noticed that a few of the trees are actually dead. So not really seeing what the concern is there with trees. I actually sent you a picture today. I got on a ladder and took a photo of, because 70 Madison Terrace was nervous about us being able to see right into their fenced backyard. So I got on a ladder and took a photo from there and sent it. And because of trying to set the deck farther south on the back side of the house, we can't even see into their yard. We can actually see into their yard really well from inside the house. But from this deck, it's a non-point. You can't even see in there. What else do we have? Not sure how a deck could create unreasonable noise any more than us living in the house could create unreasonable noise. If we're going to be outside at all, people are going to hear us. And, again, our kids are grown and out of the house. Well, hopefully out of the house soon. One is waiting to move away to a job, but, we're going to be living in the house. We're going to make some noise. I hope it's not excessive. And then one of the other things that people seemed to say in their letter was that they felt like a deck would adversely affect the value of homes in the neighborhood. And I just don't agree with that. The house has been a rental for the last few years before we bought it. And, we intend to paint it and do upgrades. And I don't see I think we may have sent you a picture of back of the house, or if you had seen it, it's not a pretty house at all. So, we definitely don't intend to make it look worse. And we're hoping that any improvements we make would improve not only our value, but the values of those around us. We did notice that the house they sent a letter today. What was the address? Hold on a second.
Oh, I think you're referring to the letter from the owner of the property at the he wasn't in favor or opposed. He was just hoping he'd be a good neighbor.
Yep, we did see that, and we do appreciate that. We met him when we were there the other day, and we met his tenant, and we did talk to them about it. I'm sorry, I didn't write down the address. Their address is actually lakefront, but it's at the very end of Madison, faces the lake.
Yes.
And he seemed to be really kind of concerned about his next door neighbor, which is the one who, Caroline Andrews. which, you know, again, I totally understand. They've been neighbors a long time. One of the things he brought up was about the height again, that it's not a high-rise neighborhood, which I thought was interesting because he seems to have the highest, the tallest house in the neighborhood. But also, I believe that he sold his house this past weekend, so will no longer be living in the neighborhood anyway. I know the house was for sale, and now I see that it's not, and I had heard that it was sold. Not that that makes a difference, but
And this is Tim.
can you hear my husband?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd just like to add one thing. My wife and I have lived in the same house here in Arundequoit for 25 years. We raised our kids here. They went to school here. We love it here. And the reason we love Arundequoit is because of the neighborhoods, the neighborhood aspect of this town. And that's one of the reasons we were reluctant to leave the town. And we looked so long for a spot down in Somerville because it just seemed very appealing to us and a very cozy neighborhood, especially for a couple of people who are entering the next phase of their life like we are. So I just want to reassure people on that street that we're good neighbors, and we wouldn't want to do anything that would harm our relationship with any of them. But there are some things about the house that mainly not having any ingress or egress to the living area, which concerns us a bit. And we're hoping that we can find some kind of medium ground here. Thank you.
You're welcome. I read over your application and I read the input that we had received at the time. And just for the record, I have an email from an Edgar Gardner. And Mr. Gardner was opposed to the application. We had an email from Robert Otto, who was also opposed to the application. We had a letter from Frank Maggio on behalf of Carolyn Andrews, who also was opposed to the application. And we had an email from Ann Bartolotta, who also was opposed to the application. And when I read through all those emails and I went down and I think it was Saturday afternoon, and I talked to the neighbor south of the property, and I had a chance to go into the back and to look. I think what struck me was the 5 foot up in the air. That to me just seemed like really, really like, wow, I can understand why all the neighbors would be opposed to that. I noticed that your application made reference to a sliding door to access the deck. So it became, I figured out that you were going to be putting that in. I talked with the one neighbor, and I know that she was reluctant to speak, but she didn't really seem to be too in favor of it, although she didn't want to rock the boat. But I think that if you were to proceed with the sliding glass door and a staircase down from that door to a patio or even a slightly raised deck, you know, a foot and a half off the ground, that would cover that area and still have the trees around it. I don't think that would be an intrusion that your neighbors would really have too much of a problem with. You can put a patio in without a variance. And, you know, so and I believe, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's a certain height of a deck that you can also put in without a variance. Because it's basically considered to be similar to a wooden patio. I think it's a foot, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
And I think that those things would accomplish everything that you indicated you wanted to accomplish with this, and not be
we do too,
and not be intrusive upon your neighbors. I've said it in the past that if you want preserve your view, you buy the property that you can see.
I don't have $250,000.
I understand that. And if you can't afford to buy the property, then you have to take whatever view you get from the people who do it, as long as it's in conformity with the codes.
Right.
So,
right.
You know, if you were amenable to that, then I don't think you need a variance.
I think we will, though, because the one corner of the house is like 3 feet from the, I mean, wouldn't we have to get a variance to put the the deck out and the stairs down?
I'm going to check the code to see if there's a square footage trigger. I believe there might be, where you're allowed to have an egress out of the building. That may only be defined specifically in our front yard requirement, not the rear yard. So I'm going to check that code, and I'll be able to provide some feedback to the board momentarily.
Okay.
Okay.
Chairman, if you don't mind the interruption, so that anybody viewing this meeting at home, a deck does require a permit. The only time it does not is if it's a floating, meaning not a structure. It's a structure that can be picked up and moved. So if it's poured, if it has footers, it doesn't matter if it's the height issue only determines whether or not you need fall protection, AKA railings. So height doesn't dictate permit requirements. Whether it's a temporary structure and can be picked up and moved, or if it's going to be built with footers is the determining factor.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
But I don't think you run into
if they're proposing a low-level deck, it would be in the applicant and this board's best interest for you to consider that as a variance, because anything within 8 feet of the principal structure is deemed to be part of the principal structure per our accessory structure code. So without the applicant maybe having to make a decision on the spot about whether they might go concrete, which would not require a permit and therefore not be subject to a variance from this board, any structure that requires a building permit would need to meet those setback requirements.
Okay.
Okay. I think, I mean, are you waiting for us? I think that may be it for us. I'm sure there are people that would like to also have input, which we would love to hear.
No, I was just waiting for Ms. Ivers to give us the information that she was looking up about egress.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, do you want to move on to the public hearing portion, and then I can be researching either during the next case, or so that we're not keeping folks waiting if they're wanting to speak or provide comment?
Sure, that sounds good. All right. So we'll open it up to public input at this point. Do we have any?
We do have at least one hand raised. I'm going to mute the applicant, or ask the applicant to mute themselves. And then I will let the first person who's raised their hand into the.
Oops.
So Carolyn, if that's you, you should be ready to speak to the board, and you can be heard.
Okay. So, yes, it's Caroline Andrews, 411 Lakefront. And, first I'd like to thank the board members for considering, my objections, and also my new neighbors for considering some of these issues and trying to come up with a compromise. I do appreciate that. Whether or not the new proposal is going to be acceptable, I think I would like the opportunity to review the particulars on that and see, how it affects my property. I'm still a little confused about the proximity to the border of my property and how the variance request works with that. But aside from that, yes, the height of the deck was a major concern. I have lived in this neighborhood a long time, and I can tell you that I can hear every single conversation when that home, the window is open on the second floor, and it gets loud. And I'm sure I'd be an uninvited guest to every conversation on a 5-foot high deck. So I'm pleased to hear that that might be something that they're not going to do. As far as the exit in the back, apparently it's a concern. I don't know if this is a concern afterthought because of all the objections to the construction of a deck, but that's up to the board to consider whether that type of permit is reasonable. So again, I would really like an opportunity to look and think over, would this be a new variance request, or would it be an amended plan? How would this work?
It would be an amended request, and it wouldn't necessarily require consideration at a further meeting if the applicant were agreeable to amending the request to eliminate, say, the 5-foot elevation and just go with a backdoor staircase to a lower area. That wouldn't require a further meeting, most likely.
So what about the fact that there's an excessive setback request that brings everything very close to my property? Where would that stand on an amended request?
That would be either if the applicant wished to table it, then it could be at a later meeting. Otherwise, we would deliberate on it and make a determination later this evening.
So you would consider the fact that it's 1.5 feet from my property line, potentially, or whatever the plan ends up being?
Yes, the request is that they be allowed to go 1.25 feet from the your property line and 6 feet from the southeast line.
Okay, so I just want to voice my objections to having the setback to that, amount, and bringing it so close to my property line. I would like to see something constructed further away from my property line.
I'm looking at the survey map.
Okay.
That was attached to the original application. It appears from the application that this property is 32.3 feet wide, and according to what's stated on the front, the rear setback would be a requirement of 30 feet. And the property is I'm not clear on from the application.
I understand that a 30-foot setback in this neighborhood is not necessarily, feasible.
Yeah. So
I
the
do
question,
understand that.
the question becomes the extent to which, if at all,
Yes,
we would approve
Yes.
a variance. And again, as was pointed out and discussed earlier, they can put a patio ground level without any permit.
okay,
And that,
that's fair.
that wouldn't, but what I had envisioned, and I don't know about them, was that they put kind of a angled drawing on the back of the house on the
Yep.
on the survey.
Yes. I saw
And
that.
the angle is to preserve the trees, it appeared. And they were talking about going out 9 feet and 11.5 feet. And that would leave it approximately 6 or 7 feet from the property line to the north.
To the north.
It's not clear to me from the survey where your property cuts in.
No,
on
I
this.
know.
Although from the aerial photo, it appears I see where their property line is. Yes, it's that solid line. Yeah, okay. So yeah, the 1.25 feet that you're referring to, that at the northeast corner, the deck that they were talking about,
Yes,
is from the angled property line, not from your house.
I understand that.
That angled property line.
I
that goes
understand that.
back quite a ways. It looks like 42 feet to the south east.
I understand that. It's still
Okay.
1.5 feet from my property line, which I
Yes.
object to.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, I think I took notes again. I appreciate that, my neighbors took the time to re-examine their, proposal and are proposing a change. And I do wish also that, it's a shame that we couldn't have discussed this before the meeting and come to a compromise, but here we are. So, thank you. I think that's all I have to say at this point.
Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application?
I'm just gonna remind, it looks like I've got one other person interested in speaking.
Okay.
Anne,
Yes, can you hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay, I'm Ann Simonelli. I apologize, my email header for some reason came up Ann Bartolotta. It hasn't been that for a long time. I live own the property at 70 Madison Terrace. And like my other neighbors, was really opposed to a deck 5 feet in the air. And as the applicant stated, there is a window that looks right out in the yard, which I did put in my email, looks right out at my house anyways. The proposed deck would have taken away the little bit of privacy I had. They would have to be sitting in that window to look out into my backyard. A deck would have made it feel like they were in my backyard because we are on top of each other. I would have no problem with a patio because that is not going to feel like an invasion of my privacy. And the staircase, I wouldn't like even a 5 foot, 5 by 8 deck up there with chairs. I understand it's a beautiful view and would love to sit there and have coffee, but I am opposed to that. I am okay with the amendment if it is the patio and a staircase. But again, I also respect, the on Carolyn's practically in her property. So I'm okay as long as it's not a deck up there. I am absolutely opposed to a 5-foot deck 5 feet in the air.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application?
I'm looking and I don't see any other hands raised. I will remind folks, if you want to raise your hand, you can either press *9 if you're on the phone, or if you're logged in through Zoom, there should be a menu item where you can indicate your interest in speaking. I don't see any other hands raised. Chairman, I did have a chance to check our code.
Yes.
And it appears that the only allowance for like a front stoop or an exit from a property that would impede in to like the front setback but not be counted against it or need a variance is defined in our front yard definition. No similar or equivalent clarification or qualification exists in our rear yard definition. So I think for this board's, for the applicant's sake, I think you need to contemplate any structure, any like built structure that require a permit, a variance for that. I might even include, because I don't see it clearly, exempted in the way the code is written, I might also include a staircase out. One other piece of advice or guidance I might provide is in the building code. I don't know if there's a landing requirement, like some minimal step out before you step down, especially at a certain height from a safety perspective. If the first step out of a house is down a step without coming out a little bit before, I don't know if there's a requirement in the building code. So I would just want to provide that guidance.
All right, and what is the requirement that's applicable to the front?
So, hold on one moment, I can. Okay, so the front yard, and forgive me, I'm reading it from my my phone for ease. That's not working, so we'll do this again. Bear with me, I do apologize. Apparently changing the direction was threw my phone off. So front yard, front entrance platforms with or without steps and protective hoods over entrance doors may project into the minimum front yard setback requirement. The size of the platform or hood shall not exceed 32 square feet. For properties which do not meet the minimum front setback requirement, meaning the building line is already encroaching into that front yard requirement, then the maximum the entry platform shall not exceed 16 square feet. So in cases, so just as a point for the board's like illustration, say a property was sitting and it had only 25-foot front yard, and in our code it requires 30. A person could construct a 4x4 or a 2x8 or some other configuration that was not up to 16 square feet of a platform with the stairs down from it without a variance from this board. The minute they need to go bigger than the 4x4 or the 2x8 or some other configuration that's over the 16 square feet, then they do need to get a variance. If the building was the neighborhood average or a minimum of 30, because neighborhood, but it's got to be the minimum of 30 with the front yard, you could have up to the 32 square feet without the need for a zoning variance. So that's the requirement for the front yard. Is that what you were looking for, Chairman?
Yes, because
Okay.
I was thinking that I wouldn't want to get into a situation where if we were to approve uh, a second egress at that height, that the landing would then end up being a small deck.
Sure,
um,
right,
Because that would sort of defeat the purpose. So
right.
it could be a landing at the top of a staircase that goes south and is up against the house, is what I was thinking.
Yeah,
would
so,
then-
right, so then you're not eating up into the backyard. And from a design perspective, that may benefit the applicant if that's suits their needs. And
Yes. All right, thank you. Is there any other input with respect to this case from anyone? Emails, *9. Put your hand up through Zoom.
I don't see anybody else's hand raised. And just so we're all clear, there is no maximum height set forth in our code or even in the building code about height of deck. So although that's the subject of this applicant, or that's been a subject of conversation, this board would not need to contemplate any height variance as it relates to an exit or a deck or any kind of structure that's adjacent to the house.
As long as it otherwise met
Building code.
and setback requirements.
Well, the setback is the only thing that you would be granting or needing to consider granting. I like to remind the folks who might be watching at home or the folks who are participating in the meeting now, what does and does not require a variance through this board.
But if we were to approve the application in an amended form, we could limit the height of the deck as part of that, correct?
I don't know that you can. I don't know that there's a provision in our code that limits. I don't know if that could be put as a limit. That might be something I would defer to our deputy town council, because our code doesn't provide any limitation on deck height. There are 2-story decks that exist. So I don't know if you could provide that as a condition on approval for a setback in relationship to a setback variance request.
I would just note that the height of the deck could be taken into consideration as to one of the required factors to consider its impact on the neighborhood, the community, those type of factors. So the height very well could be a piece of that consideration as to one of those factors.
But can it be a condition? Can they dictate, can they request a certain height or identify a max limit on the height?
Yeah, the height, to the extent the factor, I believe, as long as it would be reasonably related to the board's determination, I believe they could impose that condition.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we will close the hearing with respect to this matter. And we'll go back to the first application that was on the agenda tonight for 343 Oak Ridge Drive that didn't have anyone appearing. Is there anyone appearing now?
There is someone appearing now. I will activate
right.
them currently.
So we'll go back. I'll read it again, Mr. Chair.
Please, thank you.
Case number ZB 2020-07-1. Upon the matter of request by Lauren Daly and Megan Maurer for area variances to install front yard fencing exceeding maximum linear footage and with less than required front setback on premises 343 Oak Ridge Drive in an R1 residential district.
Okay, I've just added Lauren to the meeting, and so you should be able to hear her now if she's unmuted on her side.
Hi, this is Lauren Daly. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you for having us. My wife, Megan Maurer, is in the room too. Sorry, we had some technical Zoom difficulties, but we're here now. So I've never done this before, so I'm just gonna take you real quick through why we're applying for this and when we
All right,
walk.
but hold on, before we get into that, you live at 343 Oak Ridge Drive, correct?
Correct.
All right, then I'll need you both to raise your right hands.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We do.
Okay, now you may proceed.
Thank you. So we live, if you've been on Oak Ridge Drive, you know, it's, we live kind of on a curve. There's a lot of tree cover. We live right around a bend. We have two beautiful children, a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, who live for playing outside. And over the last couple years, we've lived in this home for 5 years. We find a lot of tire tracks around our bend. We find decorations knocked over. We just get a lot of, unfortunately, reckless drivers coming down Oak Ridge, not obeying speed, not obeying the double line. So we requested a variance for the length from our home, as well as the length across, to put in a small decorative fence to serve as two functions. One is something just kind of aesthetically pleasing to bring up the aesthetics of our home, to serve as a visual function for cars going around the bend, and to create a safety barrier between our children and the street. I do have 3 letters of support I'd be happy to forward to the board from our surrounding neighbors, Fred and Pat Megan, Eleanor Pelcher, and Tom and Jeffrey Zahowski. They all kind of attest to various issues with drivers in their yards, as well
Can
as
you just read the addresses for those individuals into the record as well?
Absolutely. So Eleanor Pelcher is directly across from us at 354 Oak Ridge Drive. And I'll submit all of these after the hearing.
Okay.
Fred and Pat Megan, M-A-G-I-N, are at 329 Oak Ridge. And there are direct next door neighbors. And then
To the south, right?
if you're facing,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Okay. Towards Pine Grove.
yes,
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
And then the other two are Jeffrey and Tara Zahowski, Zalkowski, and they are at 310 Oak Ridge. So the end. So if you're thinking of the cul-de-sac, Ellie and Tara and Jeff are on the ends of the cul-de-sac, and they both have homes right on the corner.
Okay.
And I will submit those to you guys in writing. The reason we requested the variance is when Michelle graciously walked us through how this works, and we staked it out. The fence just would be in the middle of our yard, and it would cut off. It wouldn't do the trick in terms of where we would want visibility for drivers. It wouldn't follow the contour of the land, and it would eliminate half of our front yard. So we asked to come up as far as we were allowed by the variance, so we could maintain some yard space for our children, but also get that desired effect for some of the visual around the bend. I do understand that if this gets approved, we would like to ask DPW if we could have another foot or two just to come up a little further, because it is still quite far removed from the edge, and to match our neighbor's fence, which is kind of aligned. I understand that might not be possible, but we would certainly like to try. But so again, this is really for our kids' safety. It's for our neighborhood safety. We wanted to say here, and honestly, the thing that would propel us out of this neighborhood is the lack of sidewalks. And to us, we were very in favor of the component of sidewalks. We were very willing to give up our property for sidewalks. When that didn't come through, this to us seems like a good balance, and we'd be willing to do anything we would have to do to make it in code and follow whatever feedback you guys might have to get this through. Is there anything that I should have mentioned that you need information on?
We're not shy, but I don't see anybody having any questions or comments. So I'll take that to mean that we understand your application.
Cool.
And we'll open it up to public input if there is any.
I'm not seeing any new hands raised. I'm going to again ask folks if you do want to speak to this case to press either *9 or to indicate through the Zoom app you're interested in speaking. I'm still not seeing any new hands raised.
Do we have any email input?
I do not see any new emails that have come in.
All right, seeing no public input, we'll close the hearing with respect to this case, and then we'll go back and call the, I think it was the third case on the agenda that we're all, for which the applicant also did not appear at 219 Park Road.
And that applicant is here, but before we move on to that, I did get a question from the applicant, application number 7. After once the public comments had been received, the question she raised was, that was the Madison Terrace.
Yes.
She asked if she was going to have an opportunity to address those comments with the board. And so I just wanted to alert you to that inquiry that came in. Catherine Mannion.
Oh, the applicant.
Yeah, the applicant wasn't given the opportunity. So I just wanted to let you know that they were asking if they were going to have the opportunity. So you can take that up during deliberation if that's up to.
Let's go finish that up now and then take up Park Road.
Okay, so I'm going.
I apologize for not giving Ms. Mannion an opportunity to respond. That was an oversight on my part.
Okay, and so I don't know if they're from a point of order or if there's anything you need to do formally to sort of accept that, or just this is part of your continued information.
Part of the hearing. Oh, yeah, we're still on that. All right, Ms. Mannion.
And I've unmuted Catherine now, so she hopefully should be able to. Oh, maybe not. She may be muted on her own.
Hi, thank you.
All right, I apologize for not giving you that opportunity.
You can't shut me up that quick easily.
That's fine.
I just wanted to, you were talking about the height of the deck, and I think the height of the deck would really be dictated by the floor level of that level of the house. So if you were considering putting a deck height restriction, and we're talking not really about a deck now, we're talking about a platform to land and go downstairs, because we're willing to make that change. We really just want the opportunity to be able to get out from that level, but the deck level would be, to get out from that level of the house. So I don't know how you would be able to, like if you said the deck height would have to be 3 feet.
I think we're confusing decks.
Okay, you're talking on the ground?
That there's a deck that would be on the ground.
No,
okay. Or a patio. And then there's what a quote unquote non-deck really, that would be a landing to step onto from which the stairs descended.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that.
Yes, the height that I was asking about as a condition was for the lower level where the stairs would land.
Okay. All right. And then the only other thing that we really wanted to say was, again, to Carolyn, our neighbor on Lakefront, that if we're changing this way, it seems to me that the whole non-deck, the platform, would actually, we'd have the opportunity to move it a little farther to the south side of the house. So not so close to her property line, the diagonal line. Yeah. So I know she was really worried about that, and we want to, as long as we want to be able, we'll move it as far to that side as we can. But there's a window there, so we can't go all the way. And we need to put the stairs, but we're willing to move it over away from that north corner of the house.
I was assuming that the window that is there now is where that would come out, and that's where the sliding door would go.
Well, our original intention was to put it between the two windows.
Oh, okay. That I hadn't picked up on, but
Ah,
okay.
okay. I guess I don't think I ever said it, or my husband never said it. So
That's all right.
that was the original intention, was to put it between the two windows.
All right. I mean, there's only so many places that you can put a egress from that level,
right?
Without taking it down walls inside. So
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm understanding correctly, what you're indicating is that you're willing to put the egress as far south on that upper level as is practically possible.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for not giving you the chance to add that earlier.
That's all right.
All right. So now I think we can resume with 219 Park Road. And if we can have the description reread.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Case number ZB, you're welcome. 2020-07-3, upon the matter of request by Michael Ranchi, acting as agent for Raphael and Sharina Maria for an area variance to construct a front porch with less than required front setback on premises 219 Park Road in an R3 residential district.
I've just unmuted the applicant and they should be able to speak now.
Hello.
But if you give us your name and address.
It's Rafael Morera. It's 219 Park Road.
And can you raise your right hand at this point?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and explain your application to the board.
So my application is for a front deck porch sitting area in front of my house that extends my my walkout, my egress from my front, which is currently there. It'll be an additional 13 feet across the front of my house and extend outward towards the street at 8 feet. With the material that I'm using, which is composite and vinyl, I think that it'll be a nice addition to our house to make the outside of our house look much more presentable than it currently is. As far as aesthetics, it looks, at a quick glance, it would probably be equal to the distance from the road to the houses west of me, as the houses east of me have a shorter egress that are probably grandfathered in because of the age of those homes. I think that with not having any neighbors across the street, it wouldn't be an imposing factor as far as, like, you know, being intrusive, or even to the neighbors to either side of me. When we originally measured the plan, I didn't realize that the pass-through was measured from the other side of the road. I originally measured from the edge of my front yard where the road stops and my yard begins, and thought I had enough space. So with that being said, here I am, and, you know, asking for that variance.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open the matter up to public input.
Sorry, I guess I didn't get through to you.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
was just
Go ahead.
wondering, the bottom of the deck area, you see all the posts. Is it going to be skirted in any way to be covered?
Yes.
What are you going to put there?
I'm sorry?
Just wondering what you were going to put there.
A painted valance, or a painted, I forget what it's called. I'm stuck on words right now. Yeah, lattice, yes. But the front boards will be covered in, or they'll be made of like a white vinyl board as well.
You can get white vinyl lattice.
Yes, everything will be matching in material.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public input.
At this time, I don't see any hands raised for the attendees at the meeting. Michelle can check the emails to see if any new emails have come in during the course of the public hearing.
Not for this case. I have not received anything.
All right, then we will close the hearing with respect to that application. And I believe that brings us to the end of the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Is there anyone on the board who wants to take a moment or two to, get something to drink, use the facilities, whatever, or do you want to just go into the deliberative portion of the meeting?
Let's do this.
All right, there we go. All right, so following our usual practice, we take the cases in the order in which they appear on the agenda, but the agenda got reshuffled tonight. So we're going to take it from the actual agenda that we followed. So the first case is the application pertaining to 260 Vinyl Avenue. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. And I would make a motion that we grant the application with a few variances. I would suggest that we grant an application for the applicant to be able to place
Jim?
from, and as it is able to do, from the northwest corner of the home to the southern end of the front window.
Mr. Chairman, can you start that over? Because you seem to mute out during what you were saying.
That's because every time somebody tries to call me on my cell phone, it mutes me out on this.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's technology that, and I don't get along well with it, but we're trying. So I'll start over. I would make a motion that we grant the variance as applied for by the applicant, with the change being to allow the applicant, if it's feasible and desired by the applicant, to extend the surface of the porch deck so that it can go as far north as the northwest corner of the house and as far south as the southern end of the windows in the front of the house, with the same distance from the house, the variance of the front setback requirement. And in support of that, I would offer the following findings. It will not have any adverse effect upon or change to the character of the neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood. It would actually, I would think, would help improve the neighborhood. The alternative that doesn't require a variance would be to put a patio in front of the house and just have chairs or whatever there, but I don't think that would be as aesthetically pleasing as what the applicant has in mind. It is not a substantial request in my opinion. It will have no adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions if it's granted. It's only self-created to the extent that the applicant wishes to avail himself of being able to use the front of his property to interact with his neighbors and passersby, as opposed to any other factor. And even if viewed as self-created, I don't believe that factor is anything that should cause us to deny the application. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay. Is that Tim? No, that was Joe. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. We have 1 board member absent. The next application on the agenda is the application pertaining to 200 Totem Trail. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. I'll make a motion with respect to that, that we grant the special use permit with the following conditions. That there will be no more than 4 chickens, hens, or whatever at the property. There will be no roosters. The chicken coop and the run will be located to the south of the pool on the east side of the property, at least 8 feet from that property line and at least 8 feet from the pool, edge of the pool. The fencing for the chicken run will be buried at least 2 feet into the ground around the chicken coop. The food will not be kept in any outdoor container and will be kept in appropriate container inside. The homeowner will present yearly a certificate from a veterinarian attesting to the fact that the animals are in good health. The town will have the right to inspect the coop air and run area to assure that the conditions upon which the special use permit is granted are being followed. And the special use permit will be effective for a period of 5 years from today's date.
I'll second.
That was Scott. Mr. Hart?
Brad.
Brad. Oh, okay. It's hard to figure that out with this Zoom. All right. In any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Jim, do you want to?
Aye.
I was
Any
just gonna say,
opposed?
did you read us off one by one? Or are you okay with everybody just yelling?
It might be better to read it off just to be sure, but I believe Ms. Bickett, you said aye.
Aye.
Mr. Hart,
Aye.
Mr. Intini,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and obviously since I made it, Mr. Upson seconded it. We both said aye. 6 in favor, no opposed, no abstention. 1 member of the board is absent. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is also the application pertaining to 285 Shore Drive. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make an application or a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance as written. It is not a substantial request despite the appearance of there being substantiality in the height variance request. The actual height of the garage will be lower than the height of the house, given the nature of the slope of the property. Now, the actual square footage of the garage is only 200 square feet larger than what the code requires. I can't see any negative environmental or neighborhood impacts. It doesn't seem like there's any issues with it affecting the character of the neighborhood overall. It looks like it'll be a nice addition to the home. I don't believe I'm missing anything, but so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Ms. Bickett,
Aye.
Mr. Hart,
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Intini,
Aye.
Scott, obviously. Mr. Upson,
Aye.
motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board remains absent. The next item on the agenda pertains to 731 Kings Highway North. This also is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll move that we approve it. I don't,
Okay.
with the findings, I don't think the variance is gonna cause any undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. Well, obviously the alternative is not to put a fence in, but I think that is a busy street. And I think the fence that he's putting in is gonna work fine there. It's not a substantial variance. And I don't believe there's gonna be any adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And it's self-created in that he wants to put a fence out, but I don't think that's a non-starter.
I'll second.
Okay. The only thing I was thinking when you mentioned reference to the neighborhood, he's pretty much his own neighborhood.
That's
And there
pretty wide
there
open.
really is nobody around him. All right, any other discussion or comments? Ms. Bickett,
Aye.
Mr. Hart,
Aye.
Mr. Intini,
Aye.
I voted aye. Mr. Scott
Aye.
and Mr. Upson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board remains absent. The next application pertains to 66 Madison Terrace. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application? If not, I'll make a motion that we grant an amended application with respect to what I would propose approving would be an egress from the main living area of the house at the southernmost possible practical point onto a landing that would be no bigger than required to satisfy the building and fire codes, that would have a staircase going south down the side of the building to the level of either a deck or a patio that would not exceed 1 foot in height from the ground level, and approve the variance requested with respect to the setbacks with the following findings. The addition of a 2nd-story egress will have some change to the neighborhood in the sense that there is no other elevated egress. One of the things that I did notice when I went to the property was that it did not have a 2nd-story egress, and it's a very long and narrow house, and the absence of a 2nd-story egress was something that I did identify as a safety factor. To the extent that it allows for safe egress from the property and nothing more, I don't believe that that is an adverse change in the character of the neighborhood. The alternative that would not require a variance would be that they would not be able to improve the property by adding that egress, and they also would not, they would be limited in how they can use the ground level property. I understand the neighbor's concern about the fact that it's within less than 2 feet from the property line. I believe the variance they requested for was 1.25 feet. But that is created in part by the fact that the property line is at a diagonal to the back of the house. And if the property line was parallel to the house and parallel to the neighbor's home, it would not be as substantial a variance. It would be a number of feet. The distance between where they would be putting a patio or a deck to the side to that property line is narrow, almost at the narrowest point of that property in the back, but there is a considerable distance of open property to the home of the neighbor. So allowing them to go that close to the property line at a level that is no higher than 1 foot will not create an appearance of encroachment or any kind of adverse impact. It is a substantial request to the extent that they're required to have a 30-foot setback. They wouldn't even be able to do that under the code and the configuration of the property. So although it is a substantial request in proportion to the size of the lot and the configurations that are required and would be imposed by the code, that is not a factor that would weigh in favor of denying the application. The effect on the physical or environmental conditions of adding a second story, and I refer to it as a second story egress because it is, the main area is above a lower area. The effect of adding a second story egress on the physical or environmental conditions will not be detrimental. In fact, it might even enhance it. And the use of the ground level for enjoyment, relaxation, sitting, enjoying the view of the lake that it affords with a patio or a deck that is no greater than 1 foot would not be an adverse condition. The situation is self-created because the applicant is purchasing the property and it is what it was when they decided to purchase the property. But I believe that the fact that it's self-created is not a determinative factor in denying the application. Properly limited in its nature and scope, as I believe it now is, to accommodate the concerns of the neighbors and give the applicants the ability to use their property in a way that is beneficial to them and not detrimental to the neighbors.
A second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify. So we're amending the variance to grant them what would be the accepted code for a front egress in the rear of the house, as well as a restriction of 1 foot on the height of the actual deck itself, and granting the same setback variances that were listed in the application.
Yes, but the 1 foot limitation applies to the ground level area at the rear of the house. The second story egress is only to be what the building and or fire code requires to have as a place to start descending from the structure.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Bickett?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Antini,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
Mr. Upson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstention. We still have one board member who is absent. The next item is an application pertaining to 343 Oak Ridge Drive. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll move that we approve it.
All right.
I don't believe, again, I don't believe it's gonna be create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, the fence they're talking about is gonna be in line with the adjoining fence, so it kind of makes sense. Other alternatives, they could not put the fence in, but I think, again, given that street and how busy it is over there, and the fact they have children, it makes sense to have a fence out there. It's not a substantial variance. We're only talking about 3 feet. They could move it back 3 feet, but the lawns over there do kind of indicate it'd be better out closer to the road, and it lines up with the adjoining fences. I don't believe it's going to have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. It is kind of a rustic area, and there are no sidewalks out there. And again, it's self-created in the fence, in the sense that they want to have a fence, but I don't think that precludes granting the variance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Bickett,
Aye.
Mr. Hart,
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Antini,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Upson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstention. One member of the board remains absent. The last item on our under consideration for this evening pertains to the application at 219 Park Road. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll
See-
move that we approve the application as presented. I don't see any negative impact environmentally or to the character of the neighborhood. In fact, I think the way the deck is designed, it should improve the curb appeal of the home and the character of the neighborhood. It is not a substantial request, especially considering the site and configuration of the property. It is a self-created issue, but again, I don't think that given the small variance that's being requested, the self-created nature should preclude us from approving this request.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Ms. Bickett,
Aye.
Mr. Hart,
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Antini,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Upson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. One member of the board remains absent. With the packet of materials for tonight's meeting, everyone should also have received a copy of the minutes of the meeting that we had on June 1st. Did everyone get a chance to review those minutes as drafted? Let me rephrase that. Is there anyone who didn't get a chance to review those minutes as drafted? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as prepared. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Right. And we were all present then, so there's, can all vote tonight. Ms. Bickett,
Aye.
Mr. Hart,
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Antini,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Upson.
Aye.
All right, so the motion carries. The minutes are approved, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and 1 member of the board remains absent. Is there any other business to come before the board tonight?
I got a question.
Yes.
A while back, I'm thinking in November, we had a thing for 2841 Culver Road.
Yes.
Is that item still tabled, or whatever happened to that thing with the freestanding sign they wanted?
So that was, they were given the opportunity to come back to the board without having to make separate applications. So it was sort of a,
It's sort of still on the table then.
it can be, yeah, so they would be able to, if they decided they wanted to move forward with a freestanding sign, they would be able to do so without having to make a separate application and pay separately again.
I just had a
no.
note on it. I just want to make sure it didn't get lost.
Thanks for keeping us on our toes for sure, but the applicant was just told if they decided they wanted to come forward, they could come forward at a future date. My expectation would be that once the 1-year mark passes, in other words, from the night of that meeting, then it would be that sort of open invite would be similar to the approval itself that's granted. It's good for a year. So at that point, then they would need to submit a new application.
Okay. All right. Just wondering.
So
if the chairman disagrees, he can certainly let me know that.
no, so what I think I understood you to say is that motion was tabled with the applicant's consent.
That
And
portion, you did approve. I thought you approved some variance and then you let them, since they didn't have a sign at the time,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, they did. It said, my note said that they asked that the sign variance be tabled until such time as the sign was designed.
All right, so it's, that portion of it was tabled with the applicant's consent, and 1 year from that meeting, it will be brought off the table and they will either have submitted something or we will act on it so that we can conclude it, correct?
That's my understanding of how the process would work. What we can do is perhaps Michelle or I can reach out to the applicant to remind them that they have that opportunity. There was a tabled portion of their application, and to find out a status and whether or not they had planned to advance an application or come to the board for approval.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So at this point, I believe that the official portion of the meeting is concluded and we will formally adjourn. But there is something that I wanted to just raise to the members of the board and the attorney as well, and Michelle and Carrie. So do we have all the applicants and everybody else off of the?
I can, the folks are allowed, no one. Everybody's muted at this time.
All right, so are they still participating in the meeting?
They're still attendees, yes, at the meeting.
All right. The only thing I wanted to say was to the board was that I was not trying to dominate by making all the motions. It seemed that nobody wanted to venture out to make a motion on some of those that garnered a little bit of attention and interest. So I felt it appropriate for me to make the motion and get the ball rolling. I don't want anyone to feel that I'm, going to take over or do anything inappropriate there. I just felt that it was my role to make a motion so that we could have a discussion and get to the heart of it, and nobody else needed to take heat on anything if it comes. So I just wanted to explain that.
That's why you're the chairman.
That's why you get the title in front of your name, sir.
And the extra check, right?
Exactly.
Check your mailbox.
Yes. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful month of July. and we'll be back hopefully at the town
Right.
hall in August.
So my expectation, my understanding, and again, with the, the unpredictability of COVID and any potential changes, but at this time, I'm anticipating that next month's meeting will be in person. So we have the workshop meeting for planning board is being held via Zoom. The workshop meeting for the town board is being held via Zoom, but the regular town board meeting this month is being conducted in person.
All right. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And
so-
Michelle, I will have these resolutions for you in that mailbox before 11 tomorrow morning.
Harry, the mailbox is still out there, right, Harry?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The mailbox is still out there?
Oh, the mailbox is still, it should be still out in front of the IPD building.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Good night, everyone.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Everybody.
Good night.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Arundecoit Zoning Board on ICAT Government Access.